Welcome all of you, the viewers of Poland Daily Culture. We are right now in the Royal Castle in Warsaw talking about John Paul II. And here with us is Paweł Figurski, a historian, also theologist, and a person expert in the thought of John Paul II. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank you for having me.
And this exhibition, which we can see in the Royal Castle in Warsaw, touches many aspects of his pontificate and his role in Poland, but also, I would say, the political role, which of course he had, which is also connected to the figure of Saint Stanisław. In the previous episode, we talked a little bit more about his first pilgrimage to Poland, how it was postponed, and how the Communist Party and the Communist government in those times were so afraid of the Pope coming to Poland, speaking here, and referring to the saint. What were the, I would say, the outcomes of those 9 days he spent here on Polish soil as a Pope?
There is an American producer that made a movie entitled 9 Days That Changed the World, and it was about the first pilgrimage to Poland, because 1 year after we have the Solidarity movement exploding in Poland, and basically all the transformation ongoing to change the political order. But perceiving John Paul II as merely politician would be, I would say, shallowing of his figure, because obviously he touched on many political aspects, or he was actively involved in politics of his time. He, as we recall, was very much against the war in Iraq after 2001, and he was actively participating in many political aspects of his era, but he was not doing it because he was a politician. He was looking at these events with his supernatural outlook to perform politics as part of ethics, to bring peace and love, actually love, to the politics. This is also part of his Catholic social teaching. A very interesting manuscript re-emerged recently with the lectures of John Paul II in Catholic social teaching. This was a lecture taken over his professor, Piwowarczyk, in Krakow, when John Paul II was still an academic teacher, and he put an emphasis on charity as not this vague feeling that we watch in many movies, but a category that should stood at the front of social activity. So his involvement in politics was, in a sense, Augustinian, trying to bring charity to the affairs, to the human affairs.
And this pilgrimage has a huge impact on Polish state and the situation, and also of people. And we even use a term of political theology of John Paul II. What is understood by this term?
So the term political theology is kind of a risky one, because it was first introduced by a lawyer, jurist, Carl Schmitt, in the 30s in the Nazi Germany. So many people are kind of afraid of talking about political theology in this sense. And obviously John Paul II has nothing to do with this kind of political theology advanced by Carl Schmitt. He would stand rather in accord with the opponent of Schmitt, Erik Peterson, who claimed that there is no such thing as Orthodox Catholic political theology, but this is a broader issue, and maybe we won't go into these details. What is crucial is that John Paul II was an integral man, looking at the man in its integrity, looking its beginning here on earth, but his or her end in heaven, meaning his call to become part of the Holy Trinity, And in this sense, being an integral man, he also was not able not to touch on the affairs that are labeled political, but this was an attempt to bring more humanity into what is going on in the perplexed and tormented world after the Second World War, amidst the Cold War, and also amidst the communist regimes in many parts throughout the world.
And this aspect, of course, we can see in the modern world, because I am very much in favor of the thesis that if not for John Paul II, probably the communists wouldn't fall and we wouldn't live in free Poland right now. So definitely that is his political heritage, which we live right now, as a pope, but also as a Polish priest, which had this influence on us until today. During this interview, we showed how complex and different was his figure, starting from being a priest, also an artist, a poet, an actor, a speech maker, politician, and of course a pope, so a spiritual leader of the church, but also I would say of humanity, because he didn't exclude from church those who were not strictly Catholic, did he?
Obviously, for John Paul II, all the people shared the human dignity that was rooted in God's creation, regardless one believed in God or not. So John Paul II was a great defender of humanity in every aspect. In many cultures, he was also open for cultures that were not Christian. He very much promoted the meeting in Assisi between various religious groups. So he was the defender of humanity in all possible aspects throughout his manifold life.
We just touched the surface of complexity of the role of John Paul II, especially the one artistic one, because he was also huge defender of art and the role of art in the world. You can see this at the exhibition in the Royal Castle in Warsaw, and in beautiful pieces of art who were connected somehow to the role and the figure of the Pope, but also artists who later on prepared sculptures and painted the Pope himself as a figure. Watch it, it's really exquisite, and thank you very much for being with us and watching Poland Daily Culture.